Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Common English Decoded. I'm so happy you're here with us today. It doesn't matter if it's morning, afternoon, or late at night, wherever you are. I'm glad you took some time to learn English with us.
Hey there! Great to have you all back. You know, I had the funniest thing happen to me this morning. I was trying to describe my coffee mug to someone, and I said it was big, and then I said, no, wait, it's huge. And then I thought, wait, are those even the same thing?
That's actually so funny because that's exactly what we're talking about today. I do that all the time. I'll say something is large and then second guess myself. Like, should I say enormous instead? Do they mean the same thing? Is one stronger than the other?
And that's the perfect question, because today on Common English Decoded, we're going to break down 4 very common English adjectives: big, large, huge, and enormous. They all describe something of great size, but they are not the same. Not exactly.
By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly when to use each one. You'll understand the differences in tone and feeling, and you'll sound so much more natural when you're speaking or writing in English. That's our goal every single episode.
Here's a question for you before we start. Which of these words do you use the most right now? Is it big, large, huge, or enormous? Write your answer in the comments below. We love reading your responses, and it helps us understand where you are in your English journey.
And if you haven't subscribed to Common English Decoded yet, please do it right now. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you never miss a new episode. We upload regularly, and every single video is designed to help you speak more natural, confident English.
All right, let's jump in and start with the most common one, the word big. You probably already know this word, but I promise there's more to it than you think.
Okay, so let's start with big. This is usually one of the first English adjectives that learners pick up, right? It's simple, it's everywhere, and it works in almost any situation. The basic structure is simple. Subject plus is/are plus big. Or you put big before the noun. For example, that's a big dog. Or, she has a big smile.
Right, and big is really the most versatile of all 4 words. Here are some everyday examples. I have a big test tomorrow. That was a big mistake. They live in a big house. He's got big dreams. This is a big deal for our team.
And here's what I love about big. It's not just about physical size. I say things like, that's a big decision, or this is a big moment for me. I use it all the time in emotional or abstract situations, not just when I'm describing something you can see and touch.
Exactly. And that's what makes big so useful. It works for physical things and non-physical things. So you can say, a big box, that's physical. But also, a big opportunity, that's abstract. Both are completely natural.
Now, here's an important thing to notice. Big sounds casual and conversational. It's the word you use with friends, with family, in everyday speech. If someone asks you, how was the concert? You'd say, it was a big night. You wouldn't really say, it was a large night. That would sound strange.
That's such a great point. And learners, here's a little practice for you. Think about your life right now. What's something big happening for you? Maybe a big trip, a big project, a big change? Write it in the comments. Say, I have a big blank coming up. We want to read your sentences.
Now let's talk about something special. Big is also used in a lot of fixed expressions, phrases where you can't just swap in another word. For example, the big picture, meaning the overall view of a situation. Big deal, meaning something very important, or sarcastically, not important at all. Big time, meaning very much or on a large scale. You can't say the large picture or enormous deal. Those don't work.
Can you think of an expression with big that you've heard before? Maybe in a movie, a song, or in conversation. Drop it in the comments. And now, let's move on to our next word, large. You might think it's the same as big, but there's actually a really interesting difference.
All right, so now let's talk about large. At first glance, large and big seem identical. And in many situations, they are interchangeable. A big house and a large house both work. A big problem and a large problem both work. But there is a difference in how they feel, and that feeling matters a lot in English.
The key difference is this. Large sounds more formal and more precise than big. When you use large, it feels a little more professional, a little more official. So in a business meeting, you're more likely to say, "We're targeting a large market." In a news article, you'd read, "A large number of people attended the event." In a recipe, use a large bowl. These are more formal or structured contexts.
Yes, and in everyday life, think about ordering food. When you go to a coffee shop, they don't say big size, they say large. A large coffee. A large fries. A large pizza. That's large being used as a specific size category. It's official, it's measured. You probably wouldn't say, "I want a big coffee, please." That sounds a little odd, right?
Totally. Now here's another place where large beats big. When we talk about numbers and quantities, a large amount of money, a large percentage of students, a large portion of the population, these all sound very natural. If you said a big amount of money, well, some people do say that, but large amount sounds more polished and professional.
Here's a quick tip to help you remember the difference. First, if you're in a casual conversation with a friend, use big. Second, if you're writing an email, a report, or speaking in a professional setting, large is usually safer. Third, when you're talking about measurable quantities, amounts, numbers, portions, large is almost always the better choice.
Here's a little practice activity. I'm going to say 2 sentences. Tell me which one sounds more formal. Ready? Sentence 1. They have a big company. Sentence 2. They manage a large corporation. Which one sounds like it belongs in a business presentation? Write your answer below.
And here's another one for you to try on your own. Finish this sentence. She donated a large blank to the charity. What word fits? Amount? Sum? Portion? Try writing your own sentence in the comments using large. We love seeing how creative you get.
Great work so far. So to review, big is your everyday, versatile, casual word. Large is your more formal, precise, professional word, especially great with quantities and measurements. Now, let's take things up a notch and talk about huge.
Okay, now we're getting into the exciting territory. Huge and enormous. These two words are what we call intensifiers. They don't just say something is large, they say it's very large. Way more than just big or large. They add emotional emphasis and strength to your language.
Let's start with huge. Huge is used when you really want to emphasize size or importance. It's strong, it's vivid, and it's used a lot in both spoken and written English. Here are some examples. That building is huge. It was a huge success. We made a huge mistake. She's a huge fan of that band. The difference is huge. Notice how each of these carries a feeling of real emphasis.
What I love about huge is that it's very popular in casual speech and especially online. You see it everywhere in social media, in comments, in text messages. That's huge news. This is going to be huge. People use it to show excitement and surprise. It feels very modern and energetic.
Now, enormous is similar to huge, but it tends to sound slightly more formal or literary. You might read it in a book or a newspaper more than you'd hear it in casual conversation, but it's absolutely used in speaking too. An enormous amount of work. The enormous crowd filled the stadium. She felt an enormous sense of relief. There's an enormous difference between the two options.
Here's a really useful tip about both words. When you say something is huge or enormous, you're adding your emotion to the description. You're not just describing size, you're showing how you feel about it. So that was a big project sounds neutral. But that was a huge project. Now you're telling me it was overwhelming, impressive, or exhausting. The feeling comes through.
Let's do a quick comparison. Imagine you just finished running a marathon. Which sentence sounds the most natural? I ran a big distance today. I ran a large distance today. I ran a huge distance today. Or, I covered an enormous distance today. Think about which one you'd actually say. Write it in the comments.
I'd personally say I ran a huge distance because I want to express how I'm feeling. Tired, proud, amazed at myself. Huge carries that emotional energy. Large distance sounds like a scientific report. Big distance works, but feels a little flat compared to huge.
Fantastic. So, to wrap up this section, huge and enormous both mean very large, with strong emphasis. Huge is more casual and energetic. Enormous is slightly more formal or literary, but still used in conversation. Both go way beyond big and large in intensity. Next up, common mistakes. And trust me, these are mistakes that even advanced learners make.
All right, let's be honest. All of us make mistakes with these words, even native speakers sometimes. But there are some really common errors that English learners make, and knowing them will immediately improve your English. Corbin, did you make any of these mistakes when you were learning?
Oh, absolutely. My biggest mistake was overusing big for everything formal. I'd say things like a big quantity of data in a report. And while it's technically understood, it sounds a bit unprofessional. The better choice is a large quantity of data. Let's look at some classic mistakes. Mistake number 1, saying a large dog when you really mean a big dog. Large dog isn't wrong, but it sounds a bit clinical and unusual in casual speech. In everyday conversation, we almost always say big dog, not large dog.
Yes, large for animals in casual speech just sounds funny. You wouldn't say, wow, that's a large cat. You'd say, wow, that's a big cat. The word large makes it sound like a scientific observation. Now, mistake number 2, using enormous in very casual, everyday situations where it sounds too dramatic. Imagine a friend asks, "How was your breakfast?" And you say, "It was an enormous meal." That sounds a little over the top. "It was a huge meal," or "It was a really big meal." Those sound much more natural.
Exactly. Save enormous for things that genuinely deserve that level of emphasis. An enormous earthquake, an enormous achievement, an enormous responsibility. These situations deserve a powerful word, but not your breakfast, unless it really was extraordinary. Mistake number 3, forgetting that big can be used for non-physical things, but large usually can't. For example, she has a big heart means she's very kind and generous. She has a large heart sounds like a medical statement about her actual heart size.
That's such a funny example, but it's so true. Big heart, big dreams, big attitude, big personality, these all work perfectly. But large heart, large dreams, large personality, these all sound strange or unnatural. This is because big has evolved in English to have emotional and abstract meanings, while large stayed closer to literal physical size.
Now, mistake number 4, and this one is really common, using huge or enormous all the time until they lose their power. If you call everything huge, then nothing feels truly huge anymore. Use these strong words for truly strong situations. Save them. Treasure them. When something is really, genuinely impressive or overwhelming, that's when huge or enormous shines.
Here's a little practice for each mistake. Can you correct these sentences? Sentence 1. We have a large problem with our friendship. Sentence 2. She has an enormous smile that lights up the room. Sentence 3. The doctor said I need a big amount of rest. Write your corrected sentences in the comments. Remember, mistakes are how we learn. Every single person learning a language makes these kinds of errors. That's completely normal.
Absolutely. The most important thing is that you keep practicing, keep trying, and don't let mistakes stop you. Every error is a step toward getting it right. Now, let's do some interactive practice to put it all together.
Okay, this is my favorite part of every episode. Interactive practice. I'm going to give you some situations, and you choose the best word: big, large, huge, or enormous. There might be more than one right answer, but we want you to think about which sounds the most natural. Ready? Let's do it!
Situation 1. You're writing a formal business report, and you need to say the company earned a lot of money. Which do you choose? The company earned a big profit, or the company earned a large profit? If you said large profit, perfect. In a formal report, large is the professional choice. Big profit works in casual speech, but in writing, large is cleaner.
Situation 2. Your friend just got promoted at work, and it's a very important moment in their life. You want to congratulate them. Do you say, "That's a big deal?" Or, "That's an enormous deal"? Go ahead, say it out loud. Which feels right to you? "That's a big deal" is a fixed expression that means this is very important. Enormous deal isn't really a common phrase, so big deal wins here.
And speaking out loud is so important, by the way. Don't just read these sentences in your head. Actually say them out loud. Your brain learns pronunciation, rhythm, and naturalness much better when you speak. So, wherever you are right now, go ahead and say the sentences out loud. No one's judging.
Situation 3. You're describing a crowd at a concert. Which sounds most natural? There was a big crowd. There was a large crowd. There was a huge crowd. Or, there was an enormous crowd. Honestly, all four work here, but huge crowd and enormous crowd convey more energy and excitement. If you're telling a friend the story, you'd probably say huge crowd, because it's energetic and casual. In a news article, enormous crowd or large crowd would fit better.
Situation 4. You want to describe someone who is very generous and kind. Do you say, "She has a big heart," or "She has a large heart"? As we talked about earlier, big heart is the correct idiomatic expression. Large heart sounds like you're commenting on her cardiology report. Say it out loud. "She has such a big heart." Doesn't that feel natural?
Now here's your challenge. Create your own sentence using each of the four words: big, large, huge, enormous. Write all four sentences in the comments below. Don't overthink it. Just think of situations from your own life and describe them. The more you practice writing and speaking these words in real contexts, the faster they'll become natural for you.
And remember, perfect grammar is not the goal. Real communication is the goal. If you say a big amount instead of a large amount, people will still understand you completely. The goal of these exercises is to help you sound more natural over time, not to make you afraid of making errors. Every sentence you try is a win.
Wow, what an episode! I feel like we covered so much today, and I hope you're leaving this episode feeling more confident about these four words. Let's do a quick recap of everything we learned about big, large, huge, and enormous.
Yes, here are the three big, see, I used it right there, the three big takeaways from today. Number 1. Big is your everyday, casual, versatile word. Use it in conversation, in emotional expressions, and in fixed phrases like big deal and the big picture. Number 2. Large is more formal and precise. Use it in professional writing, with quantities and measurements, and in situations where you need a more polished tone. Number 3. Huge and enormous are your power words. They add emotional intensity and emphasis. Use them when you want to express strong feelings or truly impressive scale, but don't overuse them or they lose their magic.
And you know what? I'm really proud of you for making it to the end of this episode. Learning a language is hard work. It takes patience, consistency, and a lot of courage to keep going even when things feel confusing. You showed up today, and that matters more than anything else.
Here's a reflective question to leave you with. Think back to a moment in your life that felt truly big, or maybe huge or enormous. How would you describe that moment now? Write it in the comments. Something like, moving to a new city was a huge step for me, or getting my first job was a big moment in my life. We genuinely want to know your stories.
If this episode helped you, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more English learners around the world. And share this video with a friend who's learning English. The more the merrier. Don't forget to subscribe to Common English Decoded so you get notified every time we upload a new episode. We're here every week with practical, real English lessons just like this one.
Learning English is a journey, and we're so glad you're on this journey with us. You've got this, truly. Every episode you watch, every comment you write, every sentence you practice out loud, it all adds up. We believe in you, and we're cheering you on every single step of the way. Thank you so much for watching Common English Decoded. We'll see you next time.